Why do small children find it so hard to share with other children? I recall a friend's child being asked, and being presented with an ice cream by her mother, "What's the magic word?" To which the child replied, "Share." I think sometimes, perhaps most times, we have unrealistic expectations of our children's capacity to share with other children, toys and their possessions. And I think we sometimes get confused by our own wish to have children who reflect well on us as parents. If our children behave nicely, then people will think that we're doing a good job. Learning to share is developmental. It's a step on the way to acquiring empathy, which is really not capable, something that children are not really capable of until they are quite a bit older. Initially, children will share because it is positively reinforced. It is a source of pleasure to their caregivers, to their teachers, to their parents. And it's important to recognize that the first thing that children have to learn to share is in fact their mother's attention, your attention. And that's often really difficult, and it's often the difficulties with sharing your attention that gets transferred onto sharing with other children, other things, toys, or a teacher's attention. Babies realize quite early on that their mother has other things on her mind. It may be dad, it may be work, it may be other children. So sharing, or the capacity to share, goes with being able to manage feelings of jealousy and feelings of being left out. 2-year-olds will play in parallel. They're only just learning about sharing, so their play tends to be copying, mimicking, and parallel. Older children can be encouraged to take turns and share a single object. Often, while they're still small, that will require some degree of supervision. A child won't voluntarily give up their turn on the scooter unless they're tired of being on the scooter. Another reason why sharing may be difficult is because a child is transferring difficult feelings around the arrival of a new baby or another dynamic that's going on amongst the sibling. It can be transferred onto playground or playdate settings. A child does not want to risk losing your love by being overly aggressive to his or her own siblings. So it's sometimes easier to bite another child on the playground than it is to attack your mother's child at home. So how can you help your child to be kind and caring to other children at school, on playdates, with their siblings at home? There's a lovely children's picture book called Mine, about a mum trying to manage an afternoon playdate. And every time the visiting child touches one of her daughter's toys, her daughter yells out, "Mine." In an effort to diffuse the tensions, Mum decides to take the 2 little girls to the park with her daughter's tricycle. And in a tussle, the trike is let go of, careens down the hill, and lands up in a bashed, battered, broken state at the bottom. "Yours," says the visiting child. Small children do not understand the "how do you think you would feel" kind of logic. Which is not to say that you shouldn't be using those words or trying to help mediate the experience of sharing with them, but they're not capable of that kind of empathy. We need to hold realistic expectations if we're going to try and help our young children to share with each other. It's often helpful to think about why a child might be behaving in an unkind or uncaring way, whether there is something going on at home that's being transferred into the situation. Also, we assume that children are equal just because they're the same age, and they're not necessarily equal. Sometimes children are more articulate or physically stronger or just more forceful in personality. So some kind of mediation of sharing situations is required. I think that it can be helpful to distract if you've got children who are really struggling to share, and it can also be helpful to duplicate if you've got, for example, siblings who are struggling to share. They may both need a blue bowl rather than only have one blue bowl that's regularly fought over. Not intervening too quickly is good advice to give yourself. Sometimes children can be left to sort things out, but intervening too late is also something to be careful of, because children do sometimes need our help or the supervision of an adult. Struggles with sharing at home can be very painful for parents who really do hope that their children will love and be kind to each other and be generous at all times. Children need to know, or at least to trust, that you are being fair. It is important as a parent to look at things from both children's, or all your children's perspectives, and see how it feels for them. Reflecting on the frustration for a toddler who has just had his tower bashed down by his crawling sibling might help you to understand why he lashed out. Similarly, identifying with a baby who is intrigued and curious about the exciting activities that his older siblings get up to can also help you to understand how little children do get into their older siblings' stuff and are inclined to mess up or break up things that are precious. I think it is helpful to think about toys in different ways at home. There are special toys. Special toys are usually the toys that a child has been given for a birthday, transitional objects, favorite toys. And I think that a child should be entitled to hold on to his own toys and not be expected to share. Similarly, a child will need to understand that his siblings may also have their own special favorite toys that are out of bounds. And then children can be helped to know that there are mutual toys that can be shared, that are easily accessible, and that turns may need to be taken with. Sometimes this can be practically done by having toy boxes or a special shelf. And I think that as parents, we can safeguard those for our children, help to be the gatekeepers. Be careful of handing down and how this feels for the child who's expected to give up a toy just because they have, maybe from your perspective, outgrown it, and also how it feels to be the child who's on the receiving end of something that feels second-hand, that hasn't really ever fully belonged to them. I think it helps siblings to know what is mine, that I don't have to share, and what is yours, that I can't touch, and what is ours, that we have to find a way of taking turns with, probably most things. And your role as parent is to help your children to learn to do that.